In the previous part, we explored how low carbon dioxide levels may have constrained ecosystems during glacial periods. We saw that climate, vegetation, water availability, and carbon cycling are deeply connected. But this raises another question. If carbon dioxide slowly declines during glacial periods, what causes the rapid transitions back into warm interglacial climates? Why does Earth repeatedly shift between cold and warm states? To answer this, first we need to understand how glacial periods behave. The climate system is complex. There are many processes influencing global temperature, and many of them are connected. Sparse vegetation and dry conditions reduce evapotranspiration and atmospheric moisture transport. This often leads to lower humidity, weaker cloud formation in some regions, and changes in the surface energy balance. Under these conditions, more energy can escape directly from the surface to space, while reduced moisture transport also limits precipitation and water availability for vegetation. Water vapor is the dominant greenhouse gas in Earth's atmosphere and plays a major role in regulating outgoing radiation. If water vapor decreases, it means that Earth can radiate more of its energy into space, so the planet cools. In colder conditions, oceans absorb more carbon dioxide, which reduces the carbon available for plants, so vegetation retreats. Carbon dioxide's radiative effect also decreases due to its lower concentration. Earth cools, ice sheets expand. If ice sheets expand, it means even less water and land available for the biosphere. It means less vegetation, and the whole cycle of amplifying processes start again. This is a stable glacial period, as all the processes amplify one another. To change this, something must happen outside this stable system of processes. Earth does not orbit the Sun in a perfectly stable way. Over long timescales, its orbit and orientation slowly change. These astronomical variations are known as the Milankovitch cycles. There are three major components. Eccentricity, which means that Earth's orbit around the Sun changes in the shape of Earth's orbit. Obliquity, which represents the changes in Earth's axial tilt. And precession, which means that Earth's rotational axis wobbles slowly. Together, these cycles alter how solar energy is distributed across Earth's surface. Importantly, they do not substantially change the total amount of energy reaching Earth on a yearly average. Instead, they change where and when that energy arrives. This is especially important for seasons. Importantly, Milankovitch cycles alone are generally not considered strong enough to explain the full magnitude of glacial-interglacial temperature changes. The direct change in solar forcing is relatively modest. What gives these cycles their power is amplification. Small orbital changes can trigger larger responses through feedback mechanisms already present within the Earth system. Once enough feedbacks begin reinforcing one another, the climate system can shift rapidly toward a different state. As seen earlier, there are a number of processes amplifying each other to keep glacial periods relatively stable. These include vegetation extent and types, water availability, water vapor, carbon dioxide availability, global temperature, extent of ice sheets, and so on. If any of these processes change toward a cooling planet, the others follow and amplify the effect, so the temperature decreases more. This way, the system gets trapped into loop, which is hard to break. However, if something external breaks this chain, the amplifying effects are reversed as well. The northern hemisphere contains much more land than the southern hemisphere. Large continental regions respond to seasonal changes much more strongly than oceans. This makes the northern hemisphere particularly sensitive to orbital variations. When precession and eccentricity align in a certain way, northern hemisphere summers can become warmer. If summer occurs near perihelion, the point where Earth is closest to the Sun, seasonal contrasts increase. Because of Kepler's second law, Earth moves faster near perihelion and slower near aphelion. This means that summers near perihelion are shorter but more intense, while winters are longer and colder but still less extreme compared to the increase in summer energy. These warmer summers are especially important for ice sheets. Large ice sheets do not disappear mainly during winter. They disappear when summer melting becomes strong enough to exceed winter snow accumulation. At the same time, extremely cold conditions often reduce atmospheric moisture and snowfall, since cold air can hold much less water vapor. This can limit how much ice accumulates during long glacial winters. As a result, stronger summer melting may outweigh additional winter accumulation, allowing ice sheets to retreat. Once ice begins retreating, the feedbacks discussed earlier can amplify the warming process. As ice sheets retreat, darker land surfaces become exposed. These surfaces absorb more solar energy than reflective ice. Moreover, melting ice provides water, which is essential for plant growth. Vegetation can begin expanding into newly available regions. Expanding vegetation can increase evapotranspiration, atmospheric moisture transport, and influence cloud formation and regional energy balance. These processes can contribute to climate feedbacks that reinforce warming under certain conditions. As the climate warms, air can hold more water, so humidity increases. This leads to reduced outgoing radiation and more precipitation for vegetation. Ocean circulation and solubility changes can contribute to the release of carbon dioxide from the oceans. Higher atmospheric carbon dioxide can further influence climate through radiative effects, while also enhancing photosynthesis under many conditions. This means that Earth warms more, so ice sheets continue melting even faster, and these processes amplify one another, so global temperature quickly jumps into a warmer state. The interglacial period begins. Even though these processes amplify one another, there is also a plateau. Temperature does not increase indefinitely. If we look at global temperature over the past 65 million years, it becomes clear that today's climate is still relatively cool compared to much of Earth's history. There are strong feedbacks capable of amplifying warming, yet the climate system appears to remain constrained within certain long-term limits. This suggests that stabilizing mechanisms also exist within the Earth system. One possible factor may be the limited extent of land available for vegetation expansion. Vegetation cannot expand indefinitely, and changes in land surface hydrology and atmospheric composition may all influence the long-term behavior of the climate system. At the same time, glacial-interglacial cycles became significantly more pronounced during the last 1 million years. This pattern is especially visible when examining temperature variability over the past 5.3 million years. It is also clear that even warm periods are cooler than most of Earth's history, so something else may restrict warming. One possible contributing factor may be the relatively low atmospheric carbon dioxide concentrations of the late Cenozoic compared to earlier geological eras. Warmer interglacial periods are often associated with expanded vegetation, stronger hydrological cycling, and increased biological productivity across many regions. Nevertheless, Earth is still considered to be in an ice age in the geological sense, because permanent polar ice sheets continue to exist. Considering the long-term removal of carbon through sequestration, together with the strong coupling between vegetation and climate discussed earlier in this series, an important possibility emerges. Low atmospheric carbon dioxide levels may contribute to limiting vegetation productivity and extent, while also amplifying climate instability during glacial periods. Rather than pointing toward a single conclusion, these patterns suggest that climate, carbon dioxide, and the biosphere may be more tightly connected than they are often presented. As climate warms and oceans change, atmospheric carbon dioxide levels also respond. Cold oceans generally store more dissolved carbon dioxide, while warmer oceans tend to release more of it back into the atmosphere through changes in solubility and ocean circulation. During warmer periods, expanding vegetation and biological productivity also remove more carbon from the atmosphere through photosynthesis, storing it in soils and biomass. Over longer timescales, these interacting processes may contribute to gradual declines in atmospheric carbon dioxide during interglacial periods. As seen in Part 10, regional pollen records suggest that during the transition from interglacial to glacial periods, vulnerable ecosystems declined one after another when atmospheric carbon dioxide was relatively low. Vegetation decline often appears to coincide with temporary pauses or small reversals in the longer-term carbon dioxide decrease. One possible explanation is that as ecosystems contract, some carbon stored in vegetation and soils returns to the atmosphere through decomposition and ecosystem restructuring. Transitions into warm interglacial conditions can occur relatively rapidly, while cooling phases often develop more gradually. One possible reason is that ecosystem decline does not happen everywhere at the same time. As some regions dry and vegetation retreats, carbon released from soils and biomass may partially offset the longer-term decline of atmospheric carbon dioxide. These interactions may also help explain shorter-term variability within larger glacial-interglacial cycles. If we look at temperature variability over the past 5.3 million years, climate cycles are visible throughout the record, but their amplitude becomes much larger during the late Pleistocene. One possible contributing factor is that lower atmospheric carbon dioxide levels made some regions increasingly vulnerable to drying and vegetation loss. Arid regions generally contain less atmospheric moisture and often less cloud cover, both of which influence regional energy balance and outgoing long-wave radiation. Under these conditions, vegetation decline may have amplified cooling in already sensitive environments. In this view, orbital variations may act as the trigger, while vegetation, water availability, and carbon cycling help determine how strongly the climate system responds. This perspective changes how we think about glacial cycles and climate itself. Earth's climate is not driven by a single variable alone, not by orbital forcing, carbon dioxide, vegetation, or ice independently. Instead, climate appears to emerge from interactions between astronomy, oceans, ice sheets, water, ecosystems, and the carbon cycle. The Earth system behaves less like a simple machine and more like a complex network of connected processes. Ice, oceans, atmosphere, vegetation, and life itself continuously shape one another through feedbacks operating on different timescales. The story of climate is therefore not only a story of temperature, it is also the story of water, carbon, ecosystems, and energy moving through a living planet. And perhaps most importantly, relatively small changes can sometimes trigger much larger transitions once enough parts of the system begin responding together. As explored in parts 5 and 6, vegetation can strongly influence climate through interactions involving evapotranspiration, atmospheric moisture, and the surface energy balance. During glacial periods, low carbon dioxide levels together with colder and drier conditions may have contributed to vegetation decline in vulnerable regions. In the next part, we will explore how carbon dioxide interacts with outgoing radiation across different vegetation types and climate conditions. Could large-scale changes in vegetation and aridity have contributed to why Earth's climate today is cooler than during many earlier periods of geological history? In the next part, we will explore an ultimate question. Based on satellite data, we are going to investigate the role of carbon dioxide in warming and cooling Earth. We will explore the mainstream narrative and what it is based on, then try to answer whether increased carbon dioxide concentration really warms the planet. If you liked this episode, don't forget to share the video so others may also enjoy it. And remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future parts of the series.